Hey everybody, so I'm here to talk about the $900 billion COVID relief plan that just passed. And of course, another topic, it's going to be changed, but the point of this video is that the bill is 5,600 pages long, and it's not an easy read. It's not like reading a novel. It's pretty detailed, and you have to read it very carefully, to make sure you're understanding everything. And then you're also going to have to open up tons and tons of documents outside the bill to understand, because when you're reading it, it references other documents, and so in order to understand what you're reading, you're going to have to read thousands of more pages. So the point of this is these politicians vote on, they voted on this bill, and they really don't know what they're voting for or against. I mean, they don't know. They didn't read all of this. And I'm going to show you how much they really would need to read to know what they're voting on. I'm going to show you some examples here, because I've got the bill pulled up on my computer. But the point is, they vote for a $900 billion spending bill, and they don't even know what they're voting for. None of them. None of them. So let me show you. Now, this is page 1, and you can see, I can bring that back up again. Well, it's just under 5,600 pages long. And I don't know, the thing isn't showing on the top of my screen, but it's like 5,593 pages long. Okay, now this is the start of it. I'm just going to call it, there's all kinds of stuff in it. It's not just the COVID relief stuff. I'm just going to call it the COVID relief bill, just for simplification. So one thing I'll first point out is it's very hard to find what you want to look for. This is the table of contents. See, table of contents. Now, what's missing in the table of contents? What is missing? How are you going to find where Title I military personnel is? Where are you going to find that? Usually in a table of contents you have page numbers. So the page numbers are not in the table of contents, so you have to scroll through 5,600 pages to find what you need. Now, so I'm going to go, so I've opened up several copies of this bill to simplify it, and I'm going to start with section 311. Actually, I'm going to start over here. I'm going to start on this section. Here's another one. This is page 1283. See, that's page 1284, so we're on page 1283. Now I'm going to show you, when I read these 3 lines, I'm going to show you how much information you have to look up just to understand what you're reading in those 3 lines. So as you see, it says, for necessary expenses to carry out the provisions of sections 103, 105, 106, 214, and sections 251 through 255, and Chapter 10 of Part 1 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. Now, you're not going to have any idea what you just read unless you look up all these sections of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. So that's what I did. Here's the table of contents of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961, and it continues, but like you'll notice, there are page numbers. Wow, what a concept. And of course the COVID bill does not have that. I guess that wasn't in the budget for $900 billion. But so I also opened several copies of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961 to speed up my point. So again, this is section 103. Now let's go back again to, this is the COVID bill. Remember, it talks about all these sections. So I'll just go through them real quick. I'm not going to really read, but this one has to do with agricultural, rural development, nutrition. And you're going to see section 103 it's at least 3 pages long. Yeah. See, there's section 104. So section 103 is 3 pages long. Section 105, right there, that's only a couple paragraphs. Then you have section 214, and that's just from here to here. So we're looking at 4 pages total so far. Now, it's, I mentioned section 251 through 255, but I don't see them here. This is section 241. This is section 281. So, but it shows that, so section 251 through 255 should be in between these two numerically. It does show these Title 6, 7, and 8 were repealed in 1978, so maybe sections 251 through 255 were involved in those sections. And then here's chapter 10 of section 1. And chapter 10 goes on for a little bit. That's 3. Looks like now there's chapter 11. There's chapter 11. So chapter 10 is like 7 or 8 pages. So again, let's go back to the COVID bill. So to read sections 103, 105, 6, 214, and chapter 10, you're looking at, 15, 16 pages. I forget the count. Maybe 14 pages, and then 251 through 255, I'm not sure where those are, and I'm not going to take the time to try and find out what they were. But see, I have to read all those pages just to understand what these 3 lines in the COVID bill says. In the COVID bill, this whole bill is 5,600 pages long. So what are the odds of a politician reading thousands and thousands of extra pages on top of this 5,600 pages? Not much. Now let's go to another section of this bill, section 311, and right there, and we'll blow it up a little more. So it says, for an additional amount for Department of Education Federal Direct Student Loan Program account $50 million to remain available until expended shall be for the cost as defined under Section 502 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974 of the Secretary of Education, providing loan cancellation in the same manner as under Section 455M of the Higher Education Act of 1965. And it goes on and on and on. So again, just to read this paragraph, I'm going to have to look up the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, Section 502, and Section 455 of the Higher Education Act of 1965. So this is the Congressional Budget Act of 1974. There's Section 502. So that's the whole section there. You have to read all that and understand that. And then, probably you'll have to read something else to understand this. And then this is the, again, I was saying the Higher Education Act of 1965. That's this one. And it was saying section, let's go back, it said section 455. 455 of the Education Act, Higher Education Act 1965. Well, if you'll notice, there's 461 and 442. All sections in between are missing. So I'm assuming it had part to do with Part D, because that's taken out. So what I did is I Googled Section 455 of the Higher Education Act of 1965, and it brought up this Department of Education page, and it shows the 1998 amendments to the Higher Education Act of 1965 Title IV, Student Assistance, Part D. There's that Part D, that shows something was missing. And then Section 455, Authority to Sell Loans. Part D of Title IV is amended by adding the following. Section 4059, Authority to Sell Loans, the Secretary in consultation with the Secretary of Treasury, and so on. So, see, I had to do this research just to read this paragraph and know what I'm reading. If I don't know what Section 502 is of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, then how do I know what I'm reading? Same with Section 455 of the Higher Education Act. How do I know what I'm reading? So, see, you have to look up tons of stuff just to read a few lines. Then, let's go to... Here's another section of the 5,600 page COVID bill. Now I'll just show you this section. It talks about the additional coronavirus response and relief, healthcare. Let me blow this up a little more. Now, so I'm going to pick a section here. The sub Chapter 1, Extension of CARES Act, Unemployment Provisions, Extension and Benefit Phase Rule for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. Now watch and listen. When you read this, it's not going to make any sense unless you look up a bunch of documents. So it says, in general, Section 2102C of the CARES Act is amended in paragraph 1, A, by striking paragraph 2 and inserting paragraphs 2 and 3, and B, in subparagraph A2 by striking September 31, 2020 and inserting March 14, 2021, and 2 by redesignating paragraph 3 as paragraph 4 and by inserting after paragraph 2 the following, and so on. So, see, you have no idea what you're reading unless you go to Section 2102 of the CARES Act. So that's what I did. This is the CARES Act, and here's all the different sections. I already clicked on it. So there's 2102, Section 2102 there. And it says, in general, in the case of returns for taxable year 2019, including for purposes of Section 6151A of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, Section 6072A of such code shall be applied. So now I have to research. To know what I just read, you have to, unless you already know what Section 6151 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 says, you have to look it up. Same with this. So I already clicked on that, and this is Section 6151 of the Internal Revenue Code. And, there's a bunch of, that's a lot of stuff to read there. I'll pull back the camera a bit, but it's a wide screen. And look, I can scroll down. But there's quite a bit to read there. And then, of course, you might have to look up other stuff to understand this. But here's the point. To read this 5,600 page document, to read this 5,600 page COVID bill, you have to look up every page. You're going to have to look up other outside documents to know what you're reading. Otherwise, it's not going to make any sense. So my whole point is, these politicians voted for such a massive bill, and I guarantee you they do not even know what they voted for. Maybe just they know of the existence of a few things in the bill, but the whole bill, they don't know what they voted for. I mean, they really don't. There's just no way, because you got to consider, just one paragraph alone. I had to look at 15 pages of documents, and what if you multiplied that 15 times every paragraph in the 5,600 page bill? That'd be hundreds of thousands of more pages you have to read. It's probably not going to be that much, but the whole point of the story is you'd have to read thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of documents on top of this 5,600 page document to know what you read. So these politicians voted for a $900 billion bill, and they have no idea what they voted for. So that's it for now. Thank you very much, and have a good day.